I wanted to pause and start by unpacking the character collage project a little bit. This is our fourth and final project in Art 101, and in some ways, it has the fewest requirements, which might make it seem easy. I think in some ways that makes it a little bit more challenging. So I'm going to talk through the requirements that are in place for this assignment and also explain a little bit more of what we're looking for with this project. Before even talking about the project specifically, I thought it might be useful to define collage. You'll see from the literal definition here that it comes from the French word for to glue or to stick together, which refers to how it's made. It's a technique of art creation by which art results from an assemblage of different forms, thus creating a new whole. So many of you have done collages in previous art classes that include a mixture of maybe found photographs from magazines, maybe there's some painted or drawn elements. That's how we're going to work with it here. I'm going to use the term mixed media collage a lot. Media in art is a specific method of creation. So photography is a media, painting is a media, drawing is a media. I'm even counting cut paper as its own media. So you'll use at least 3 distinct processes to make a completed piece. So that's what a collage is. We're going to talk a little bit more about what I am looking for this project specifically. For your final, you are going to create a mixed media collage, and as a focal point, you will focus on a specific character. So, this character can be found in a movie, a novel, a narrative poem, a narrative song, and I say a single season of a TV show just so you can focus on a more specific plot. You have a little bit less to tackle if you only focus on one season. If you want to see more requirements, it would be good to review the top of your process journal exercise, character brainstorm. That's your very first one. So those are the objectives. Next, in terms of requirements, so the basics of how I would like you to construct the piece. Collage should end up being 15 by 22 inches. That's basically a half sheet of the watercolor paper you were given, and it needs to contain 3 or more media. And I am asking that at least one of those media is a physically drawn or painted element. The collage should also use at least 2 methods of creating the illusion of space. So just as a reminder, techniques we've discussed together in class include overlapping, using diminishing size of similar objects, placement, detail, using value color, and linear perspective. So those are the requirements. Now for talking about what is off limits. For the character collage, I don't want you to use text to tell your story. The whole point is using visuals to do that. And I'm also asking that you not focus on a character from a superhero movie, an animated movie, comics, or video games. If you want a fuller description of why, I would watch the video on YouTube for our first process journal, the character brainstorm. Now I'm going to show you some student work that I think has been successful. This is based on a character from Alfred Hitchcock's film The Birds. One thing I really liked about this piece is the way there are media within media. The cut paper has actually been painted over in some instances. We also have a photograph showing fire that's also been painted over to kind of create a tint so it blends in better with the surrounding elements. There's also illusion of space being created through the birds, through the sense of the landscape. All in all, I think this piece turned out really well. This next piece is based on characters from Once Upon a Time in the West. A big reason I like showing this piece is because the kind of hybridized forms that are created by mixing painted elements with photographic ones, in this case the harmonica, the hat, the teapot head. I think those playful elements really make this piece. It's something that collage does really beautifully, kind of creating hybrid forms that couldn't exist really in any other media. This piece is based on a character from the Umbrella Academy. One reason I like showing this piece is you can see the photograph of the moon is broken up into chunks. I actually haven't watched this TV show, but you really feel the moon breaking apart. You really feel kind of space and reality dissolving. I also really like that there's some slightly three-dimensional elements. You can see that parts of this piece actually loosely hang off the page, including the hair. The last piece I'll show you focuses on characters from the Goonies. The centerpiece here are these ink drawings of the characters themselves. They're surrounded by a photograph of water that has been painted over. There's also this lovely sense of depth created not just through the diminishing size of the characters, but through the value. So through the fact that we see the cave get a little darker further back in space. One thing that I think is great to highlight, especially when looking at this piece, is that each of these students, I think, found success because they focused on media they were really comfortable with. So if ink drawing's not your thing, I wouldn't structure a collage this way. If you feel like you have a really strong photograph and you'd like to build up your collage kind of around that, that's a great starting point. If you really liked working with paint or India ink or cut paper, I would just think of how you can really structure the collage to kind of work within that. So that's my explanation of the character collage project.